Hello and welcome back to another episode of LMScast. My name is Chris Badgett, and in this episode, I'm joined by Eileen Lonergan. How are you doing, Eileen?
I'm good. How are you, Chris? Thanks for having me.
Thanks. It's good to have you on the show. Eileen has an amazing Facebook group with over 18,000 people in it. It's called the Divi Theme Users Facebook group. And if you don't know what Divi is a WordPress theme, and we're going to get into that. She is also one of the owners of the Elegant Marketplace website, and we'll discuss what that's all about a little later in the show. But to start off, Eileen, how did you get into WordPress and Divi and Facebook?
Okay. So I, back in the day, got a degree in advertising.
Okay.
So I worked as a media buyer, which meant I was working, putting ads into different magazines or buying time on television shows. And then I moved abroad for a while. And when I came back, the internet sort of was in its infancy stage when I was away. And then when we came back, I had a friend who had 4 different golf sites and was looking for somebody to help him do his Google AdWords. So it was like a natural fit for me. And then he decided to do something else, and I took his clients and I was doing AdWords. And out of that, I really began to understand SEO. And AdWords is awesome, but as we both know, as soon as you stop paying for clicks, your content does a dive. Mm-hmm. So the golf clients were getting priced out of the market. And so I started helping them with content, and then sort of one thing led to another, and I reconnected with a friend that I went to high school with who was developing a WordPress theme. And he said to me, if you ever build, and I built one website in Front Page, and I was like, I am never, ever doing this again. This is horrible. And he said to me, if you ever make another website and you buy my theme, I'll hold your hand through the whole thing. So I was like, oh, that's so great, but I'm never, ever doing this again. So, that's how I got to WordPress. And just sort of one thing led to another. I was really committed, and I am still, to my blog. And I would just casually post on Facebook, here's another website. And then I would just kept getting client after client. So through that WordPress connection, my friend's Don Campbell, and he has a really cool product now called Get 5 Stars, which is a review platform. So he's really doing that and not doing the themes. And one of the guys from that sort of group we were in called me one night and said, I think you'd really like this Divi theme. So I was like, all right. So I went and I bought it, and I thought it was great, and I love it. And on my blog, I started posting some of the things I was figuring out, some of the stuff is now not even relevant anymore. Your close up. But as I was figuring things out, I was also looking for a community that could answer my questions. And although I'm a big, huge fan of support and paying for it, sometimes you just want your little posse and you don't want to wait around.
Yeah.
So I started the Divi Theme Users group, and maybe 2 hours into it, I realized, oh my gosh, this is probably not the right name, because as soon as you open up anything with WordPress, you start getting questions about WordPress, you start getting questions about hosting, learning platforms, plugins, whatever. But the focus everybody's gathering around is Divi. I think that sort of gets people in the door.
That's awesome. And how many people are in there right now?
I checked this morning, and it's almost 19,000.
That's amazing. So just to plan a little context of where we can go and really look into that in more detail. For the online course creators out there, the membership site builders, the people trying to build community around a brand and build training around a certain brand, there's this community piece that pops up. And you can do that on your own platform. If you're using WordPress, you can use something like BuddyPress and build Facebook in a box type social networks, but you can also leverage the tools that are already out there, like Facebook or just other online community platforms. Now you get conflicting advice around Facebook. Like, for example, I may not want people to leave my training site and go to Facebook because they'll get distracted and they'll never come back. The counter argument to that is, well, if your stuff's not good enough for people to want to come back, then, I mean, maybe it doesn't really matter. But I do understand the importance of protecting focus. But really, one of the things that makes a Facebook group great is just a thriving community and numbers. Having enough people to get that momentum. Like if for example, if you have your own forum that nobody posts in, it's kind of a graveyard or it's a dead forum. But what are some of your key insights that you've learned over the years in helping build this up to almost 19,000 people? How do you build community in Facebook? What are the do's? What are the don'ts? Let's get into all that. And I guess maybe we can start just by looking at the niching. You mentioned, okay, this isn't just WordPress or web help and share. This is like for very specific users of one product called Divi. But in the niching department, what else would you add as what about niching has helped make your Facebook group successful?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that the finding your niche is a little bit of sort of a wild card because you have to care about it. You can't just say, I'm going to have a group about plugins, and I don't really care about plugins because, you become very tied to these groups if you want them to be successful. So you have to care about it and you have to use it and you have to like it. And for me, with the Divi theme, I specifically while I've tried a whole bunch of WordPress themes and I have like licenses to them all, my philosophy has been get to know one theme really, really well, and ultimately it will make your life easier. For me, I don't necessarily have niche clients. Like I don't just do chiropractors or dentists or authors. So I need something that's flexible enough that it can accommodate these different businesses, but I don't want to be learning a new theme every time. And sort of the beauty of WordPress, or I think a lot of people come into it because they think, once I sort of know like this behind the scenes, the dashboard, it becomes really easy. But each theme has its own little nuances. Like, where do I change the colors? All that stuff. So I think it is important to have a niche. It grew really quickly. I randomly posted on an Elegant Themes, one of their blog posts, we're talking about this in the group. And that sort of opened up the floodgates.
Like in a comment? In
a comment, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
On my website, on my blog posts, I put, for more, visit the users group or the Facebook group. And then people would start telling their friends about it. Divi Support started directing people to it. They did a blog post on it. So it's kind of taken off from there. I mean, I've definitely gotten help and support along the way from them, from Divi, from Elegant Themes.
That's awesome. And how long has it been? When did you go going from 0 to 19,000? How much time has passed here?
I think it's been 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a lot in 3 years.
It's a lot in 3 years. So sort of back to your previous question, like what makes it sort of a vibrant community? I think if somebody is going to start one of these groups, you have to realize that you're not going to be the most popular person on the block.
Because?
Well, because you have to say no. You have to
like moderate?
You have to moderate.
Yeah.
You have to, sometimes it's really easy to kick people out because they're posting, like the Ray-Ban sunglasses deal, and you're just like, you're out. Other times people are just sort of relentless with their self-promotion, and you have to decide, is that detrimental to the group? Like, are they just annoying, or are they really just, there's a lot of cultural differences between, Americans and other countries. So you have to say sometimes to people, okay, you really don't want to say, give me your login and password in a Facebook group, because that's dangerous. People are just going to view you as a spammer. Like, you might spend a little time saying, does this person really have a skill set that they're bringing to the table, or are they just creepy?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's some of that out there.
Yeah. Facebook's wide open. A lot can come in there. And if you're looking at it for an online course or your learning platform, I think there's really two approaches, kind of like how you guys with Elegant Marketplace, and we can talk about that in a moment. But you can have a Facebook community that then a piece of that points to your online course, your membership site, or in your case, your marketplace. Or you can go the other way where only people in your course who get in are allowed in the group, and it's very tightly restricted.
Yeah.
So I think that's just a question of what's your model? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to funnel people from Facebook into your platform, or is it really just that's where the community lives for your members only?
Yeah.
How does the Facebook group, first of all, what is Elegant Marketplace? And then how does the Facebook group and Elegant Marketplace interact with each other?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So Elegant Marketplace is a marketplace for child themes and plugins and other creatives. We have everything from style packets for if you're maybe not a designer, and one woman's put together a style packet focused on travel and tourism. So like, I don't want to pick fonts and colors, like that's in there. Image packs are in there. We had one guy do a whole writing series on client contact, everything from the initial reaching out through the either great job, you were an awesome client, to, this isn't really working out so well. So you can buy all those emails for a pack. So we're also moving into Elementor and other page builders, themes and layouts for those. So that's what Elegant Marketplace is. And that fell out of a group of people that met through the Facebook group. And it started with more people that now there's just two of us, Andrew Palmer and I, and Andrew's in London. And so we try to come up with a delicate balance of promoting our developers and keeping things open and informing people of what's going on in WordPress with hosting. Like you and I did an interview, which is great, introducing the Divi community on using Lifter. And so we try to work with our developers so they're not posting on their own in the group. We don't want to overdo what we put into the group, because we want it to we want people to be happy to be there. We don't want them to feel like overwhelmed. But we get a lot of questions. People will say, I would like a plugin that, or does anybody know how I can have the same image appear on the bottom of every post? I'm like, well, you know what? We have a plugin for that, and you can respond. And sometimes people respond with sharing the code on how to do that. Some people and other people, like Google Fonts is a great example. Like, how do I add Google Fonts? It's like, well, you know what? We've got this $10 plugin, and people are like, done. I don't want to deal with the code, Yeah. So it's a bit of a balance. Hopefully we strike the right balance of promotion and satisfying, people's needs.
That makes sense. And it's, it's challenging to moderate and, to have it be kind of top down, but at the same time, this other great things happens in the Facebook group where kind of peer-to-peer conversations and new relationships start forming in the community. How has that worked out for you? What kinds of things do you see people like new relationships forming, or without getting you or your partner involved, like what other kinds of things are happening in there?
Yeah. It's really been amazing to me, and thank you for asking, because I'm really proud of it. I think that we have had life-changing results, or organically from that group, people's lives have changed.
Has anybody gotten married?
No, I know. I do know of one relationship. Okay. That, at some point, maybe there will be a little Eileen through, or I'll get a wedding invitation. That would be good, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if anybody has gotten married. They haven't told me about it, but I get really nice emails. I got this one from this woman who is in Ireland, and she said, because of this Facebook group and these tutorials and learning, I've been able to move back to my hometown. And
those are big, yeah.
Yeah. So we get those a lot, and I can't reveal numbers, but we have paid out a lot of money and people, to the developers who've created the child themes and the plugins. And, I hear of people like, I got a car, I paid my rent, I'm no longer, living paycheck to paycheck, or, so it's definitely significant from that end. And then I get the, people in South Africa at WordCamp who are all Divi users from the Facebook group who met up and had lunch, and there was like 8 of them or something. So yeah, it's great.
That's awesome. My business partner, he's one of the organizers of WordCamp Los Angeles, and he was talking about, like, there was this group of Divi users, and it was like, so it's what you're talking about. Like it's one Facebook group, but when that group there are happenings where they get together in person, which is amazing.
It is amazing. I was at a local meetup last night, and the guy sitting next to me was talking about, themes, and he's like, well, I had to leave one of the Facebook groups. I was like, really? What happened? Yeah. It's just so time consuming. There was so much like going on. I just would get on there and I would forget about all my other work. It's like, well, what group was that? And it was mine. Like, dude, you got to get back in there.
Right. Right. Well, let me ask you one, like, and for the online course creator out there, if you're building a community, sometimes things happen in your community that you don't intend to happen. And sometimes it's serendipitous and like really positive, and sometimes it's negative, or sometimes it creates chaos in your business. And what I mean by that is, this is just a simple example. We have a Facebook group around the LifterLMS product. It's called the LifterLMS VIP Facebook group. When you join or whatever, the about thing is, it's like, this isn't the official support channel, but we get lots of questions for support. And what's really cool is that some of the other people in there will start helping each other answer their questions. And sometimes people will start like tagging me and stuff where they're trying to get me to answer support, which I can do, and I'm happy to do sometimes when I have the answer. But we also have our formal, both free and paid support channels. Like, we have a process and a whole team ready to roll on that stuff. So like, people break the rules, but it's not that big of a deal. But it is like, I don't know. Like, how do you deal with that? Like, do you guys get support or like customer service questions in your Facebook group about Elegant Marketplace, or is that not, or did the developers, or is that not really an issue for you?
No, we definitely get support. I think support is unbelievably challenging. Mm-hmm. And people are in the moment and they want an answer. So any way they think they can find you, they will utilize.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guilty of that as well.
Yeah.
So yes, people will tag us, and we, for our developers, offer like the first line of support. Frequently it's I forgot to unzip the zip file, or, I mean, that's like, the number one, or somebody customizes some code and then they can't. So Andrew is in London, and I'm on the East Coast, and I'm wearing my LL Bean sweater in honor of Chris.
All right.
My main friend. So, we have a little time zone, and then we have somebody on the West Coast, and we try to like patch together answers. But it is hard, like we both keep Facebook open all day long and jump in and try to answer. And
do you guys answer support questions in Facebook?
We do.
Okay.
If somebody posts on Facebook, we'll answer in Facebook. Sometimes we'll say, please, let's touch base privately because it's complicated. Like I was helping some woman on a Sunday night at like 7:00, and we were kind of going back and forth on Facebook. And then I realized she'd edited her code. I was like, you know what? I'm not getting into this on Sunday night.
Right.
So, yeah. But we do answer. And I don't know if that's like the right thing to do or not. Sometimes it's just easy and it takes 2 minutes, and it also shows people that we're paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
But, to your point about having a private group, if you're running a class, it's great because if somebody else knows an answer, then they jump in and solve that for you. On the other hand, if it's your group, like, do you want to work Sunday nights at 7:00? I can't answer that for you.
I think part of that too, which I can relate to as well with the Sunday night example that you mentioned, is if you're going to run a Facebook group, there's some really smart people out there who design like user interfaces and software to literally be addictive. So if you like, it takes some serious self-control, especially if you use Facebook for personal, stuff, just keeping up with friends and family, to, when that red alert goes off or whatever. I think it's helpful if you've been around the web for a while to try to figure out some boundaries and just some healthy habits around, okay, I'm only going to do the Facebook group between this time, or 5 days a week, not 7 days a week, or whatever. Eventually, the more you do it, you're going to need to have some boundaries. That's been my experience. And that goes for email and everything else too. But Facebook groups, or Facebook in general, I think it's helpful to at least be aware of, how you use it and when you allow yourself to use it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I know you and I both like to get outside and get some exercise, and it's important. I mean, I had one guy, this is like I've never talked about this before, but I think maybe I mentioned it to you. Last year, I was going through chemotherapy, and I was literally in the chair, like hooked up. The nurse is there in her hazmat suit and the whole thing, and this guy is just pinging me. He wants to put he's putting his link to his product or in the group. And I just kept saying, you know what, we got to talk about this. It's like too spammy. Now's not a good time for me. And then now's not a good time for me became, you know what, I'm getting chemo right now. It's really not a good time for me, to like, your business is not my priority. Mm-hmm. And I said no and just kicked him out. Like, I just can't deal with it right now. So and that's like extreme. Hopefully nobody else is getting chemo and has their problem. But after that, I kind of realized, I can't, I need to be a little bit less tapped in all the time. And that's when not being popular comes in, where you just say, you know what, dude, like you're not everybody's right for your group. Mm-hmm. And you're not the right group for everybody. So that is something that sometimes you have to like do your deep breathing and remind yourself of. They're not right for me. I'm not right for them. And it's okay.
Absolutely. And that just in general is just a challenge for being online. I mean, the internet never sleeps. It's not a 9 to 5 thing. So, I mean, it forces you to either get really good at boundaries or not so good and watch some important things slip away. So whether that's, just taking care of yourself or spending time with friends and family or sitting down to dinner and those kinds of things, it's amazing how it can take over. So
right.
I think that's one of the dark sides of online community is just to make sure you have healthy boundaries with it.
Right. I totally agree. And having a partner with Facebook group, when I first started the group, anybody who was an admin had the power of, they could only be an administrator, and then they had the power of kicking you out.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a little hesitant as to who I made my partner because I didn't want to be kicked out.
Right.
But now you can have people do administrative stuff and not have that power. So you can have helpers who are sort of under the radar checking for appropriate, like for me, I always want positivity. You have to start somewhere. What's a silly question to you today may have been the question you were asking a week ago. So there's no judgment.
Absolutely. And I think getting people familiar with the search function is always good so that they can, they can find stuff before that might have been asked about, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
What about any fears about Facebook changing? Like for me as a business owner, I know, I can't remember when it was, a year or two ago, when Facebook made it so that your Facebook page, the reach of it got much smaller, and then you have to pay or boost posts to reach more people, even your own people that like the post. Otherwise, it's going to reach a small fraction, like 1 or 5% of them. So I understand why Facebook did that from a business model perspective. Right now, groups are amazing. In the back of my head, I'm waiting for that shoe to drop, but I'm not that worried about it because, well, I think that would be very damaging to Facebook. And if I have a strong community and we need to go somewhere else, I know we can. I'd hate to see it go away. But do you have any fears like that, or any reservations with Facebook at all, or issues with like them and having privacy or anything like that?
Well, the privacy thing I think is really interesting. And I fully in my heart believe if anything you put out there, like you might as well like just do a mental check. Would I mind if my grandmother saw this? Would I mind if my children saw this? Like my future clients, employees. I mean, perfect example is we have some people in the Divi group who post mean things about their clients, and the clients are in the group.
Oh.
So you deserve, it's like if you're buying the National Enquirer, you deserve to be lied to. It's like that, kind of thing. So I totally hear what you're saying. Like for my own, what I always tell clients, or like doesn't come up anymore, but people used to say, well, my business is on Facebook. And I'd say, well, that's like really not a great plan. So, we have a strong website and a strong blog, and directing people there for more information is always a good thing. If the group went away, I would be really sad. But I think that groups are kind of where it's at on Facebook, like right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if that changes, like you say, I think that we're nimble enough or responsive enough that maybe we'd figure out the next place to be. It's really easy and it's really fun. But I don't think maybe 19,000 could be replicated, quickly.
Right.
But I think we could make it happen. Don't you?
Yeah, I do. And I mean, sometimes change is not all Facebook changes are negative or anything like that. Like all the new Facebook Live stuff and the focus on video and the whole live thing, especially for a learning environment, is a great opportunity to kind of blend in not just passive video courses or whatever, but also, you know, some live sessions in the Facebook group or whatever.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I know. It is. I think that's part of the attraction to this business, maybe for you and I, because we both love to learn and we both love sort of what's next and staying current. And so maybe it's not as nerve-wracking to me as other things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. It's just, I just go with the flow. I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Cool. Well, for the listener out there who's just getting started and they're at day one and they're clicking the create group button, it sounds like if we were going to give out a few tips of like how to grow the group, it sounds like for you being in a strong niche with a lot of people that just are hungry for a community that doesn't necessarily exist yet, in a super micro niche is one. Your community is related to a certain product, or at least it started that way. So having that other company, you know, getting involved in their social conversations, whether that's blog comments or they even write a post about your group, that was a big accelerator. What else has helped the growth, like in general?
I think that having sort of niches within the niche. So we have a huge amount of people in the group who are photographers, and they tell one another about it. We have a lot of virtual assistants. So they'll say to their virtual assistant gang, you know, you should join this group. And as people, so, you know, our own little helpers, we definitely have done some boosted posts. Anytime we write a blog post, or I write a blog post where I may say, you know, this question came up in the Facebook group, Divi group.
And you link to it.
And I'll link to it.
Yeah.
So then we'll get people to join that way. I think that like slow growth maybe isn't bad either, because it'll allow the person who's setting up the group to kind of find their feet and figure out what works for them. I think definitely highlighting some of your power users is good.
The super connectors, or
yeah, because they're great. The people, like, sometimes I'll see people just like answering all these questions. I'm like, you know, who are you?
I have a couple names in my head right now. I'm like, yep, I know who comes to mind when I think about that, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And I've hired some of those people. I'm like, well, I need to hire somebody for support. Guess where I'm going first?
I know. I was speaking with Robbie from Beaver Builder yesterday, and the person that does all of their tutorials was one of their power users.
Yeah, it's only natural.
It makes perfect sense, and it's great. And which is like another thing is you don't really know where your career opportunities are going to come from.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's, like we said earlier, so much business has come out of people answering questions, because you say, oh man, she's the gravity forms guru, or that person is the, you know, anything related to wedding photography websites. We've got a whole slew of those people in the group. You know, I'm going to this person who I know, Melissa Love, like she's comes to mind, and she's used Lifter on a new course that she's launching. And Michelle Noonan is like one of our shared power users. So I think it's a great way to increase your own profile if you're trying to get business or set up your own tribe, is by being active in a group.
Absolutely. And sometimes, like you're saying, the groups overlap. in LifterLMS, we have a segment of people who are really passionate about Divi. And then I'm sure you have some Divi people. There's a small segment who's interested in online courses. So there's other Facebook groups overlap, and those users kind of move between. It's really fascinating when you think about it. And then, it's just another way to grow is to not be an isolationist. Perhaps there's other, like I'm a member of probably, I'm a little obsessive about it, but probably like 30 or 40 Facebook groups related to online courses.
Okay.
Do I spend all day and every day in there? No, but at least once a month, I like to just drop in and check out like, okay, what's going on over here? What's the conversation about? Oh, I know that person. You start recognizing faces, and, you can see, like you're saying, where it's helpful to be helpful, not just promotional all the time. And so if you are kind of jumping around, I think that's a beginner newbie mistake, is to always be like slinging or promoting your stuff or whatever. So I try to always be helpful. I mean, if it makes sense to mention LifterLMS or even link to something, depending upon where I am, if it's what the person is asking about, I'll do it. But I'm very sensitive to like not to try to be, helpful in the group and always give before taking and that kind of thing.
Yeah. When I first started in my first Facebook group, which was my friend Don from high school who had the WordPress theme, I had this personal standard that I really tried to adhere to, which was for each question I was going to ask, I had to have already answered or shared 3 things. So it could be, I found Unsplash and I'm sharing it with you guys, or I found this plugin, or somebody has a problem. You know what? I know how to do this. Let's jump on Skype and I'll help you solve it. Or here's the answer, or, whatever it is, I'll tweet your blog post. I will, whatever it was. And I was really, really religious about it. And the upside was, whenever I had a question, people were like so pleased to be able to answer,
Yeah.
And when you have a question, you're like in that moment of frustration, which is why they're pinging you on Twitter and Facebook and all the rest, because they're just desperate for an answer. So I think you're right. Like it's fine to go into a group and kind of poke around, but try not for your first post to be,
right.
Buy
my Ray-Ban sunglasses.
Buy my Ray-Ban sunglasses. Exactly.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about just where LifterLMS and Divi overlap. So if you're new to all this, just to make sure everybody knows, LifterLMS is a WordPress plugin that makes it possible to create, sell, and protect online courses. It's mostly about functionality. It does have some design elements, but you still need a hosting account. You need to install WordPress, and you need a theme, and that's where Divi comes in. So can you tell to the uninitiated, what is Divi?
So Divi is a WordPress theme from Elegant Themes. So they have, I don't know, maybe 100 different themes, and that is, so I think, their showcase theme. What makes it so popular is their page builder. So you can drag and drop, have columns, different modules. You can export and import. So if you like a layout from one website, you can send it over to another website very easily. It's very portable. Then within Divi, Andrew and I came to Lifter because I had a course. We had somebody give a whole video tutorial series on Essential Grid, and so put that in as a free course. Andrew's done a course, and so for us, we used right out of the box. Your default layout and styling was just fine for what we needed. As we mentioned before, Melissa Love has used it, and she did some styling. And then Michelle Noonan has a theme, which I've been lucky enough to see her. It's a child theme, and she has, because the Lifter LMS pages are really custom post types. You can put a little snippet of code, which she'll share with you, right into your WordPress, I guess, page functions or post functions, and then you can use the Divi page builder. So she's come up with this child theme with, the previous or next lesson and previous lesson and the sidebars, and everything's really styled, and she's got columns where you can download the audio, the video, the PDF documentation, whatever, and it just looks great. So if you're really wanting to customize, then I wish her theme was live right now, but you'll see it hopefully just in a couple days, and then I think you'll like it.
Awesome. I can't wait to see it. And if you're listening to this, by the time this goes live, it should be out. So where would people go to find that?
Yep, it will be at elegantmarketplace.com. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so anybody who's looking to get into the e-learning space, which you should be, because it's so, the possibilities are limitless, and especially with all of the features that you have, from membership to audience engagement, or sort of whatever it is, it's an unbelievable platform. You guys have thought of everything.
Well, I appreciate that. And the thing that we don't have is just not a super heavy focus on design. So when someone like Michelle comes along and is like, all right, I'm going to bring some awesome design to this, that's like next level stuff. I mean, that really completes the picture.
Right.
So that's really cool. And I encourage anybody to go check that out.
Yeah, I do too. I can't wait to see it, or have everybody see it.
Awesome. Well, Eileen, I want to thank you for coming on the show. So what's the URL for Elegant Marketplace if anybody's going to check that out?
Yep, elegantmarketplace.com.
Awesome. Anywhere else you want to send people?
Well, we have all the usuals.
Okay.
The Twitter, join the Divi theme users Facebook group, and what else? Pinterest. I typically will do the Pinterest stuff under Eileen Lonergan, just because I'm sort of addicted to Pinterest in my spare time. So.
Awesome. Good deal. Well, let's leave people with one pro tip for their Facebook group, or creative ways to use Facebook groups. For me, I'm just going to say that if you're just launching your course and you're in the marketing phase, or even while you're building it, you should go ahead and start building your audience. That it's really important to get involved in Facebook groups where your ideal students hang out. So for example, if you have a photography education website, it would be important to go not just join Facebook groups with other photography teachers, but go find where your ideal photography aspiring photographers are hanging out, whether that's a beginning photography group, an iPhone photography group, architecture or landscape photography group, whatever it is. You could go somewhere and you might find a area with like 30,000 people already in there that are like, within the range of who you're trying to teach to. So go get involved. So what's yours, Eileen?
My tip, that's a good one. I like yours a lot. But I guess my tip is for the moderator or the founder would be, don't be afraid to inject a little bit of fun. We had a little ugly sweater party. Everybody posts, their photos of them in an ugly sweater. And in order to allow people to promote themselves or share what they've done or their successes, a lot of times on Friday I'll post like it's a virtual cocktail party, and I'll post, okay, here, like drink time, share what you've done this week. And then people can put the sites that they've completed or the clients that they've landed, or, some of the stuff people come up with is like, I'm so proud of you. It's awesome. So don't be afraid to have the human element in your group.
Awesome. Well, Eileen Lonergan, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate it.